Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Chaps Vidcast, this one September 2023. I hope you all had a great holiday over Labor Day and that we're in our start to the fall season. Hope that you're enjoying getting outside, exercise, breathe some fresh air. And today I wanted to tell a little bit more about the Star-Spangled Banner and 1536 Informs 1A. A little bit about the journey that I've been on as a folk singer, songwriter with a journalism background, graphics design background, and a person that loves activity, fitness, health. So I'm glad that you're here, and there may be some opportunity for people to gain a new perspective on things. I believe I've been blessed with some insight. The first one that I'll tell you about is having a dream, and it was vivid. And in the dream, I had seen a round brass plaque. It was behind ivy, like an ivy vine, ivy covering a stone, like an ancient stone that you'd see on a castle, kind of a wall. And this brass plaque had the numbers 1536, so 1536 on this old brass plaque on a old stone wall behind some ivy. Vivid dream. And I woke up, it was early morning, so I woke up and wondered what that could possibly have meant. And I had begun some research and web searching, and that led to realizing an event, or horrific event in England during the time of Henry VIII. And it was an event called the Pilgrimage of Grace. And why this is even relevant to some of the work I do as a folk singer today, 2023, in this social media driven, polarized mayhem of society, I always hold out hope and optimism. I do have faith that God is in control. And there's a quote from the Lord himself that says, I didn't come to unite but to divide. And we're gonna have to pick which side we want to be on. As for me, in my house, we'll serve the Lord. And this dream that I had of 1536 leading to understanding the Pilgrimage of Grace further sheds light upon understanding our First Amendment to the Constitution in the United States. King Henry VIII in 1536 felt his power, his authority was undermined by a number of clergy in the land who respected authorities other than the king. King Henry VIII mandated a religion. He established a religion. It was to the church that he was in charge of. All others would be persecuted. Monasteries would be closed. And this is all as a result of getting a vision and a dream of a plaque with the numbers 1536. Law schools, I don't know if any of the law schools teach any insight of how the events, the Pilgrimage of Grace, 1536, Henry VIII mandating a religion. I'm not sure if the modern day law schools understand that influence enough today to inform a legal base about it. And, I'll hold this up, prove it wrong. If any doubt, prove it wrong. Star-Spangled Banner is another issue. I played the song on the guitar for Major League Baseball spring training game, and was challenged at that time, this is in the spring of 2005, to learn what I thought were all of the verses. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that in this video, which you may or may not have seen, but it's a story behind what led me to record all of the verses of the national anthem, Star-Spangled Banner.
My name is Jim Chaps, and I'm here to talk to you today about what led me to record all of the verses of the Star-Spangled Banner. It started out with an acoustic national anthem. In 2005, I used this guitar and played in front of 5,000 people at Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota. At the time, the Cincinnati Reds were the resident of the facility. Now it's the Baltimore Orioles. So it went through the trajectory of Chicago White Sox. When Michael Jordan played baseball for a spell, he came through Sarasota at Ed Smith Stadium. It later became, the Reds were the resident there, and that's the time when I played the acoustic national anthem for the first time. Detroit Tigers were the visiting team to Sarasota, hosted by the Cincinnati Reds. I had been granted permission from the Cincinnati Reds organization in Sarasota to use the guitar. They set up an extra mic, so there's 5,000 people in the stands, and I'm going to play the national anthem. And it actually went very well. I recorded the song afterward and put it on the Jim Chaps second project, and with a note that said, at some point I'll record all 4 of the verses. Fast forward, we're into 2012. The Star-Spangled Banner for historians and those of us that really want to know a little bit more about the truth of the song is a result of the end of the War of 1812. So here we are in 2012. It's a 200-year anniversary of the War of 1812, of which the Star-Spangled Banner resulted. So I recorded all 4 at the time. I thought there only were 4 verses. But here, there's the kicker to this is in 2013, I'm working on another album, and I came across, just out of the blue, and I think this is where I think God drops a miracle on us sometimes, and somehow I came upon a 5th verse to the Star-Spangled Banner. I'm thinking, I know this song as well as anybody in music, and I've never heard about this. So I'm 8 or 9 years into this project of learning all 4 verses and then finding out that there's a 5th verse. Well, the 5th verse was written at the outset of the Civil War.
When our land is illumined with liberty's
Why this matters and why I was even given the opportunity. I get to be the person to tell others about it, and I wasn't the only one that know about it. There's an academic music scholar at the University of Michigan, shout out to A Squared, and is Dr. Mark Clegg, who has a brilliant exhibit that can be taken around the country. It's about the Star-Spangled Banner, and Dr. Clegg is really a good source of information and perspective on the Star-Spangled Banner. I was able to meet Dr. Clegg and say, basically, I hail you for also presenting that there is a 5th verse. I thought I was the only one that knew. It's great to have some confirmation from a scholar that there's one. Why it matters. People would try to suggest to you that, and this is bizarre, don't fall for it, that the USA is racist and the song is racist because it was written by a guy that held slaves. Now think about this for a moment in perspective and say, if you're going to use the analogy of because somebody did something, that therefore any good work they did should now be canceled. Paul the Apostle persecuted Christians. We're not going to cancel the New Testament. So here's the other nice thing about finding out that there was a fifth verse to the Star-Spangled Banner. Francis Scott Key's words were indeed vulnerable. I'm going to give everybody notice that those words, land of the free, weren't applicable to everybody in 1814, all the way up until the Emancipation Proclamation during the Civil War. So during this Civil War era, knowing that there's so much good from the Star-Spangled Banner, and I'll talk about this in another...
The British were trying to bully the United States back into colonialism. The United States had already declared independence in 1776. In 1812, the British wanted to start something and show the little upstarts that they couldn't have their way against the big British Empire. It's a little fledgling America that decided that they wanted to be anti-colonial.
That everybody is included in this, and therefore I believe that there ought to be an act of Congress or whatever it takes. Y'all were able to push through a Music Modernization Act. We can certainly have a Star-Spangled Banner inclusive act that acknowledges this verse circa 1860s as an official verse of our national anthem. It's kind of amusing to me to hear some people say that, oh, it's a question. Our national anthem is a question. That'd be like saying a football game is over after the first quarter. That was the first verse is what we typically sing as our national anthem. There's four verses. There's four more verses, so it's like an overtime quarter to this not an overtime quarter, but an overtime. Overtimes don't necessarily have to be a full quarter. So a sudden victory, as Kurt Gowdy would like to call it. So anyway, the fifth verse, just call it concluded. And we can go into more details, but for now, just say, let's be a United States of America. We do have a song that includes all of us. This is our country and our national anthem, our Star-Spangled Banner. And the home of the brave, God bless America.